Hello newsies and happy Friday. Welcome to Neurodiversity Newsstand. I am Becca Laurie Hector, your host for Neurodiversity Newsstand. If you're new to the channel, this is my channel. I am here trying out this new thing. And so this little Friday presentations are about the two news groups that I have. I have one in Facebook and one in LinkedIn. It started out on Facebook. All I do and all we do in that group is share the news that's going on in the neurodiversity community. We try to stay positive. We are really respectful. In fact, disrespect is certainly not tolerated. And what I figured was, we've been doing this group for a long time. A lot of people love it, but some of us process a little bit better when we have visuals. Some of us process a little better when we have auditory. So I figured for some people who either don't have time to read all the articles that we share, or somebody who might not have a harder time processing kind of verbal information that way, here you go. It's the weekly summary, our neurodiversity news in a nutshell, as they say. If you are new to the channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell for notifications when I put up a new video. I do my best to put them up on Fridays at about the same time, but just in case, it's best to get that notification. Okay, guys, this week I have had kind of an interesting week. I've been seeking motivation. I am almost 100% certain that I'm PMSing this week, which lowers my energy a whole bunch, and all I can think about is food, and it's gross. I'm really sorry. I don't often wear V-necks, and so I'm suddenly really aware of it. Okay, in any case, let me say this. I always come to you with wet hair. That's what I feel like. Yes, my hair is wet. Yes, I just got out of the shower. I feel like I do 90% of my videos either with wet hair from the shower or messy, dirty hair from sleeping. So, I don't know, someday I guess when I have all my shit put together, if there's ever that kind of time in my life, I'm sure you'll get to see me looking, I don't know, better, I guess. I don't know. But in the meantime, you get to see the real me. And so, yes, I am just out of the shower. And I was thinking about that in the shower, about how I always come to you guys kind of right after a shower. And I think I figured out why. I think I enjoy the time in my shower alone, totally undisturbed, you know, in a kind of, I do like sensory deprivation showers. I don't have a light on or anything. I kind of limit as much noise as I can and light and all that stuff. So, yeah, so I like it because what I get to do is think about what I want to talk to you guys about, and trying to think about the news stories that have stuck with me all week, or the events coming up that I want to make sure to share with you, or whatever it may be. And so I think that I do that on purpose to myself, even though it wasn't a conscious kind of decision-making thing, because I got to get my thoughts together somewhere. So today I was in the shower because I have one errand to run this afternoon. One errand got me out of my pajamas. So I'm going to go do that one errand, and then it's going to be Friday afternoon, and everybody goes about their own personal business. Nobody wants anything from me, and I'm just going to kind of hibernate and try and get some writing done, because I've got a bunch of projects coming up, and I like that pressure. I have finally have deadlines and things like that coming up, and I really enjoy, in a really sick way, that pressure. I sort of perform better and produce better material. And I think that's because when I get hyper-focused into thinking about those things, I get into that autistic hyper-focused state and I'm writing. It's easier to access all of the tools about writing when I'm doing it. And so I just want to do as much as I can. And I'm thinking about all of those things, and it's all right percolating on top, and I'm sort of ignoring the rest of the world. So I sit down and it's almost like binge studying, except I binge write. Or I try to. And so what I'm going to try to do, I think, coming up, I'm going to try to schedule out writing times or writing days and try not to binge write quite so much. I want to have a writing habit. I don't really have a writing habit. I usually write as deadlines come up, and I need to do better than that for myself. If I really want to get serious about my writing and dedicate more time to it, I need to make that time. Because if I don't make the time, it won't exist. So those are the things I was thinking about in the shower today as I was getting ready to come to you guys, because I was like, oh yeah, I still have time. If I quickly shower, I can hop in and do Neurodiversity Newsstand and get everybody a video kind of an early afternoon instead of too late, and then go run my errand. So in any case, I'm doing that for you guys. So I'm sort of for real dressed. I have a bra on and pants, real pants. And then I'm going to go do my errands. So here I am looking sort of put together for you guys, fresh out of the shower to share the news with you. So let's take a look at this week's news. Of course, I have my handy dandy yellow legal pad. I did manage to use it last week. I think it worked really well. I felt a lot better about not throwing out like 80 million Post-it notes. So I'm going to keep going with this method. The first thing I want to talk about, it wasn't a good news week. It was a lot of stuff came out this week. A lot of people made announcements about conferences and events coming up because that's what it is. It's this time of year, especially here in the States, and more particularly, I think somehow on the East Coast, but it sort of influences at least our whole country. And I feel like globally, it's sort of happening the same way. So what happens, I think, is that our news cycle really slows down at the end of August, and then the beginning of September is a lot of this, what's coming up, hurry up everybody, we're back in the groove, and come join our conference, come pay and come to this thing, that kind of stuff. And so I just feel like that's what kind of week it was. Like a lot of stuff came out, there was a lot of content, but nothing really epic, nothing really kind of show-stopping, I guess. So I grabbed the ones that I think were the ones that we kind of all went, huh? Or whatever about this week. And I chose some things I want to talk about. So the first one I want to talk about is this big epidemiological study that came out. And so what they did was they sort of looked at autism through a genetic lens and blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Hooray. Yes. As we were all guessing, autism is 90% genetic, and a very small percentage of it is environmentally related. Very small. Mostly genetic. So what causes autism? Sex. Sex causes autism. That's what it is. Okay, so now that we all know that, what I wanted to talk about this for is because what I find fascinating is that this big study comes out, it says it right here in black and white, 90% genetics, and who doesn't want to hear it? The anti-vaxxers. So of course the anti-vaxxers are questioning the study, and we don't know kind of where they come from, but between this study and kind of this story that's going on out of New York, where New York City is sort of saying to people, if your kid's not vaccinated, they can't come to school. So we have a lot of parents who are really strongly for this anti-vax movement, and I'm not sure why, but they are, and they think they're protecting their children, and now they're choosing homeschooling rather than vaccinate their children. And so, I don't know. That's where the world is. Those are the people that are in charge of next generation's powerful leaders, which is scary to think about. Fortunately, I think I will be dead by the time that happens. In any case, so that was one of the big kind of stories that came out this week. The other one, which I thought was really interesting, and I was sort of surprised we didn't have more discussion about it. There was a good little chat going on, but what it tells me is that we're moving forward in our community. The fact that it wasn't talked about forever and ever and ever, and we didn't kind of really get into the meat of it. So this one was about extreme male brain theory, which is the work of Simon Baron-Cohen out of the UK, and it's sort of that belief, kitty cat wants out of the room. It's sort of the belief that testosterone, the amount of testosterone, is equivocal to a lack of empathy. So basically what he was trying to say is that people on the spectrum don't have empathy because we have too much testosterone. Well, it was wrong, because we do have empathy. In fact, we're usually over-empathizers, so that's a big old myth. And the other piece is that they did the science, and we have a study that came out showing there is no correlation between testosterone and lack of empathy. So that kind of squashed the whole whatever was left, I guess, of the extreme brain theory followers, or at least the truth behind it. That's not to say that at the time when Simon Baron-Cohen came out with it, it wasn't a new or interesting way to posit and look at autism, but it's now been disproved. So that was interesting. So we did have some chit-chat about it in the group, but not too much. But it was an interesting thing to take note of, because what it reminded me is that we are actually moving forward. Most of the time when we're talking about this stuff, I feel like where I'm doing this stuff, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I feel like we're not moving forward. I feel like, yes, I know change is hard for everybody and it takes a really long time and all of that, but it's good to get little markers that we're remembering to move forward and continue to study and prove or disprove theories that we think are correct, because that is proper science, rather than to kind of continue to push myths and stigma. So yay for that situation. Another big one that got us chit-chatting this week was about Autism Speaks and the company Lids. An article came out that Lids is partnering with Autism Speaks. They'll be making special hats, and of course some of that money will go to Autism Speaks. I posted it in the group. Some people question whether I support Autism Speaks. I really don't like putting news out there and putting my opinion on it. I kind of want to, I just share the articles with you. Sure, I have my opinion, but I want to give everybody a chance to form their own opinion. So I never post anything with my thoughts about it, unless it's so outrageous that I can't hold it in. So this one, I just threw it out here. This is what's going on in the world. And I do not support Autism Speaks. I don't support a cure. I don't want my autism gone. None of those things. And certainly none of the work that I do shows that that's the case. So to the person who asked, no, I don't support Autism Speaks. What I do support is being a well-educated advocate, which means knowing everything that's going on in our community, or knowing as much as you can about what's going on currently in our community. And since that is going on, and some people really want to make sure that they're not purchasing products that support Autism Speaks, and therefore I shared the article so that we could talk about it, people could know about it, and just kind of be informed consumers. And so I shared that little piece in there. And so I think it's interesting that there are still companies out there that choose not to go into any further in-depth research into the communities that they're supporting before they choose a partnership. And so we certainly know that if they had spent more than 5 minutes looking into Autism Speaks, and past the fact that they're this big giant behemoth organization, they would see that most of the community within the neurodiverse community doesn't support Autism Speaks, and maybe they would have made another choice. So as an educated consumer, perhaps you can impact their decisions. That was where it was. That was out there that we all kind of got up in arms about it, because it's kind of like, in the one hand, extreme brain theory is like moving us forward, and on the other hand, on the other side of it all, we have Lids still just partnering with Autism Speaks, so we're all the way back in those stone ages, right? So that's kind of the week it was. It's like we're back at it, and wow, some things have changed, but not so really, and that kind of thing. Yeah, but here's my big, this is what I have to talk about, really. I'm gonna admit it right now. I am a huge fan of Greta Thunberg. Really, like, fangirl, big, like, huge. I love her. I love the things that she has chosen to be the important stuff in her life. I love her focus. I love her tenacity. I love her perseverance. I love that she's unashamed of her correctness. She's unashamed to stand in herself and know that her information is correct, know that the adults she's talking to are total idiots, and still maintain her composure. In fact, what we had happen this week was a bunch of GRETA-tude, and I am going to copyright that little GRETA-tude because I want a t-shirt that says I have GRETA-tude. I want, like, the whole deal. I am a huge fangirl. She, this week, or whatever we talked about in the last one, she had sailed across to New York to be at the UN for a meeting. So here she was for climate change, showing how important our oceans are, going across there. And then, of course, after that whole long journey, she landed in America, where her first language is not the language that's spoken, and she had to access her knowledge of English and speak publicly in front of the news and all of these other people, where she was talking about her platform, but clearly she was uncomfortable being the center of attention, and so she was looking left and right, sort of, for, it looked to me like she was looking for, did I use the right word, right, and that kind of thing. And what ended up happening is a lot of the people that are critical of her, yeah, I know, I'm almost done, that are critical of her, that's my kit. I love her. She's the tiniest kitty. She's my only domestic short hair, and she has a big mouth. Any case, so there she was. She's being asked all these questions by the press, and in a language that isn't her first, and she's given it, right? And what does she have? She has people who criticize her for her facial expressions, or lack thereof, for her pausing, and for, I guess, just the way that she appeared. Really, the way that she appeared. And what I saw through that criticism was the unrelenting amount of ableism that we have out here. Here is this girl, brilliant, brave, all of these things, and everyone's saying, oh, you know, look me in the eye, essentially, was what was happening. Look me in the eye. And her response was, I mean, talk about resilience. I am so proud to be autistic because she's autistic. I am so proud to share that piece with her because she's proud of it. Because that girl turned around and she just said, and I wrote down word for word the beginning of that quote because I love it so much. So she said, when haters go after your looks and differences, it means they have nowhere left to go. Then you know you are winning. Okay. I can't like her anymore. I can't love her anymore. Greta, if you ever watch this, hit me up, send me an email, find me on Instagram, whatever. I think you are the coolest. I wish that when I was your age, I was as cool as you. I felt that passionately about lots of things, but I didn't have the courage to stand up and say it loudly. And I certainly didn't have the courage to sail across the freaking ocean and then face an entire country full of press. I didn't, and you do, and I think you're brilliant, and I think you're brave, and I love that all the little autistic girls out there in the world have someone their age to look up to. I think it's awesome. I mean, like goosebumpy awesome. So Greta, thumbs up. I love your GRETA-tude. I'm going to get myself a shirt, hashtag GRETA-tude, whatever I'm supposed to say. I think she's awesome, and she's right. Because when people come back at you and the only thing that they have to do is to pick at what they think are your weaknesses. And then you turn around and you tell them that those weaknesses are superpowers and that they just have nothing else to say. You just won that argument, girl. You did it. So we got your back. They're going to keep criticizing because you're scaring the hell out of them. So you keep scaring them and we still got your back. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that little girl. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, my Greta box, and stop talking about her. But that was, we talked about that a lot in the group this week because it was really, it impacts us a lot. So many of us are passionately concerned about her because we are so proud. So keep at it. We're proud of you. And that was really the big news of the week. I know, crazy, right? We didn't really have anything super duper important come out this week. What we do have, though, from our community that some of you should check out that was shared in the group, a new video from Krista Holman's Neurodivergent Rebel. She does a bunch of really great YouTube videos. She's had some crazy times, some busyness in her life, and it's been a while since she put out a video, but she went ahead and threw one up for us on stimming and masking. So go ahead and check that out for her. Then we had a couple of shares, and I actually shared both of these things, but everybody liked them as much as me, so I'm excited to talk about them a little bit. I shared a little video of a guy in the UK who has Asperger's, and he is a raver. He likes to rave. That's his jam, right? And there's a whole video of him raving and how happy it makes him and how happy seeing his happiness makes everybody else, right? And I'm like blown away. By the time I was done watching it, I had a big old cheesy smile on my face, and I was like, I gotta share this with the group. It's so fun. So I went ahead and I shared it, and we all felt that way about him. I actually shared that from a neighbor up here, and I was so excited to have someone not in the autism community share something so positive about the autism community with me that I also wanted to push that forward. So yeah, it was pretty awesome, and I hope you guys check that one out. The other one that I shared this week that I really, really loved was a video of a girl. She was doing a spoken word piece about her anxiety, and I thought it was genius. So good, so brilliant, funny, just great. And so check her out. That video is up there too. That was a good one to catch. Other things happening in our community coming up. Autism Science Foundation, really big on the East Coast, not so big on the West Coast. They've been doing a day of learning for a good bunch of years where they bring a bunch of researchers in to do presentations about their current science. And they invite the community in to come and see those presentations. So that's usually in New York, but this year, for the first time ever, they are doing it in San Francisco. So if you are on the West Coast and it's something that would interest you, I do know that they give scholarships to folks on the spectrum. So if you want to put in for a scholarship so you can go for free and you are in the San Francisco area, by all means, go ahead and do it. The date of that is October 17th, and you can check that out on the Autism Science Foundation page. Next up, we have the Autistics Present Symposium that's being run by the Autistic Women's and Non-Binary Network, and it is in Bellevue, Washington. So that's another one that's coming up. It's also on the page, so you can check that out. And I think really those were the big things from this week. But I think in closing, what I want to talk about is the school year, because that's really, for a good chunk of us, that's what this week was. It was the first real week back at school after Labor Day, or back at work while your kids are back at school, or whatever, however you want to look at it. And I always hated this time of year. That's what it makes me think of. I hated school. It was a miserable place for me. I was bored 90% of the time. Nobody understood me. I couldn't find my place. I was definitely bullied, but by my teachers. And every time the school year started to creep up on, they started to show the commercials for back to school stuff and everything, my anxiety would start. And I remember it so desperately. I am so grateful for it to be September and I don't have to go to school anymore. And that's terrible because I love to learn. So the fact that I love to learn but I didn't love school doesn't sit right with me. It was a lot of trauma. And so that's what I think about at this time of year. And so what I caught and what was shared by a few people, and I shared it with the group, was this fantastic little post by a woman named Justifying Jane. And what she did was she posted a picture of her kid in the bathtub, filled up. He had his sunglasses on. He was drinking a glass of his favorite juice. There were candles out. He was just leaning back and relaxed. But when you read her post, what you got to learn was that the beginning of the school year has already been rough for this poor kid. He's already had issues with administrators. He's already had issues with other kids. Because for, I think, especially the smallest of us spectrumites, it's hard to have to go back and remember all of those social rules that you have to do when you're at school so that the kids aren't mean, so people understand you, so you're doing the right thing. And it's a lot of stress. But why post this picture, right, about your kid in the bath if we're saying he's struggling so much? So when you started to read it, what you found out was that she had a habit of asking her kid when he came home from school, the 20 questions thing, right? How was everything? How are you? Was everybody nice to you? Was anybody mean to you? Do you have homework? What went on with this thing? What went on with that thing? And what she saw, because she stopped to really pay attention to her kid, was she saw a moment on her kid's face when her kid just went, oh, man, can you not ask me another thing right this second? And she saw that moment on his face and she recognized what that feeling feels like. She may not have known it about school when she was his age, but she recognized that feeling and immediately changed her tactics and immediately ran him a bath and gave him sensory deprivation and gave him his favorite things and let him relax. Because yeah, man, school is tough when you're on the spectrum. It's hard to be around all of that when you are still learning it all and you know you're different. So the fact that she understood that, even though she needed to know all of those things and she was asking them because she cared so much, it wasn't making things better for her kid. It was just adding pressure for her kid and just adding on top of what was already a hard day. And that she could identify with. So I loved that. I love that takeaway. So to you moms and parents out there, when your kids come home from school, give them a break, man. It's already been tough. They'll tell you if you just let them be them for a little bit when they get home. Just like when you get home. You know, you get home from your job, you want to throw off your shoes, take off your bra, have a glass of wine. They want their version of that. Everyone wants their version of that, because home's supposed to be your safe space, you know? Yeah, so I love that she shared that little piece of her journey with us, because I hope by sharing it, some other moms will take that with them. I think that's it for me this week on Neurodiversity Newsstand. Once again, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe on the button below and hit the bell for notifications. Also, it really helps me if you give me thumbs up or leave me comments so that I know if there's stuff that I'm missing that you think should have been in here, or if you really liked it, or if there's something that I said or talked about that you feel kind of I touched on that it touches your life. I touched you with that thought. I'd like to know, because I am doing this into a void. Well, I'm actually doing it into a room full of 3 cats at the moment. But I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. So let me know. I hope you enjoyed this version of Neurodiversity Newsstand. Please feel free to join the physical groups if it's something that's interesting. All of the links of everything that we talked about, I will put them in the description so you can go ahead and read them fully. Thanks, you guys. I'll see you next week.